because I wanted to keep them with me.
What if the boy you once held in your arms grew up to become one of the most feared killers in history? What if the man who could look you in the eyes was hiding pieces of his victims behind closed doors? This is the story of Jeffrey Dahmer.
It's Jeffrey Dahmer, serial killer and cannibal.
It's Jeffrey Dahmer, serial killer and cannibal.
It's Jeffrey Dahmer, serial killer and cannibal.
It's Jeffrey Dahmer, the serial killer and cannibal.
But it's more than just murder. It's about the fragile architecture of the human mind and the cracks that can form when no one's paying attention. Underscore Jeffrey Dahmer was born in 1960 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. On the surface, his childhood looked ordinary. Suburban home, middle-class family. But beneath that, there were warning signs. Subtle, quiet, and easy to overlook. His parents, Joyce and Lionel Dahmer, were consumed with their own struggles. Lionel, a chemist, was often absent, immersed in his academic work. Joyce battled mental health issues and was frequently sedated by prescription drugs. Emotional instability filled the home like a silent fog. Forensic psychiatrists often speak of emotional neglect as a slow toxin. It doesn't scream, it seeps. Jeffrey was a child left too long in the silence of his own thoughts. And that silence became a laboratory for his darkest impulses. By the age of 10, Dahmer was already exhibiting behaviors that should have raised red flags. Animal mutilation, emotional detachment, fascination with dead bodies. These weren't just weird boy behaviors. These were precursors of profound psychopathology. He felt powerless in his life, and instead of seeking connection, he turned to control. Death became a symbol not of fear, but of power. In his mind, people couldn't abandon him if they were no longer alive. Psychologically, this is known as objectification. Dahmer didn't see people as people. He saw them as vessels, objects to fulfill a fantasy fueled by loneliness, shame, and buried rage. And here's the painful truth. Many of these warning signs were ignored, not out of malice, but out of confusion, denial, and silence. His first murder happened at just 18. A hitchhiker named Stephen Hicks. It wasn't premeditated, at least not in the way most think. Hicks wanted to leave. Dahmer didn't want to be alone, and so he killed him. From 1978 to 1991, Dahmer murdered 17 young men. But it wasn't just the act of killing. He drugged them, dissected them, kept parts of their bodies, photographed them in death. Sometimes he ate them. Cannibalism, in Dahmer's mind, was a way to make someone a part of him forever. It was about possession, about keeping what always left. But to a psychiatrist, it represents something deeper, a complete collapse of boundaries between fantasy and reality. Dahmer wasn't just sick. He was fragmented. People often ask, was he born evil? But that's the wrong question. Evil isn't born. It's built slowly, piece by piece. Dahmer didn't erupt into a monster overnight. He disintegrated over years. There's a condition we study called antisocial personality disorder, a lack of empathy, disregard for norms, manipulative behavior. Dahmer met many of those criteria. But there was something else. A profound emptiness. A need to fill that void with bodies, images, flesh. He didn't kill for thrill. He killed to keep, to own, to stop being alone. It's twisted. It's horrifying. But it's also tragically human. And that's what makes his story so chilling. Not how different he was from us, but how familiar his pain once looked up. In 1991, a man named Tracy Edwards escaped from Dahmer's apartment and flagged down police. What they found inside was a house of horrors, photographs, remains, skulls, a vat of acid. But what shook investigators most wasn't the brutality. It was Dahmer's calmness. His confession wasn't emotional. It was factual, as if he were reading from a recipe. He was diagnosed with multiple disorders, borderline personality, schizotypal traits, but ultimately found legally sane. Sentenced to 16 life terms. Killed in prison in 1994 by another inmate. Now, I want to speak directly to parents, especially fathers. We often teach boys to be strong, to be silent, but silence is where darkness grows. Talk to your children. Hug them. Ask the uncomfortable questions. Be present, not just physically, but emotionally. No child becomes a Jeffrey Dahmer overnight. But every Jeffrey was once a boy waiting to be seen. To those watching, especially if you're over 40, 50, or even 60, you may feel your vitality slipping, your energy fading. You may wonder if your best years are behind you. But let me remind you, the mind never stops growing. Healing doesn't age out. It's never too late to reconnect with your emotions, with your family, with your purpose. The story of Jeffrey Dahmer is a terrifying lesson in neglect of self, of family, of humanity. Don't let your own life go unexplored. Speak. Share. Reclaim your power not by controlling others, but by understanding yourself. Subscribe to this channel for more insights into the human mind, stories that challenge, and reflections that heal. Leave a comment below. What do you think is the biggest red flag we ignore in others or ourselves? Because your voice matters, your story matters, and your mind still has chapters